the Radio Forest Podcast.
Nancy, it's Forrest. How are you?
I am good. I'm excellent. Thank you.
Hey, have you casted your vote yet for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Have those gone out?
Yes, I sure have.
Can I ask who you voted for?
I voted for Bad Company, and I voted for, give me the list and I'll say yes or no.
Soundgarden, it was the White Stripes, the Black Crowes, Mariah Carey.
We did Chubby Checker.
Oasis, Outkast.
Yes, I definitely voted for Oasis, too. There's only 7 we can go vote for, so it's always a hard choice, you know. Like, definitely Judas Priest ought to be in the running. I don't think they ever got in yet. And they're definitely a rock band, so it's a little odd that every year they pass up Judas Priest.
There's so many bands that haven't made it in. I didn't realize until today Eddie Money's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
What?
How could he not be? Yeah, how could he not have made it? Yeah.
How could he not? Right? It's not rock. It's like pop music of Hall of Fame anymore. The rock and roll category is expanded to the point where it's way beyond rock and roll now. But that's okay too. It's just, you know, rock and roll is a much more narrow category than what's up for the offing nowadays.
Yeah, and I feel like rock and roll doesn't really have its own place. Pop stars can win in any different of these. There's all kinds of award ceremonies where but the rock doesn't have anything. Even the Grammys, we don't get a lot.
True. I mean, there was no rock bands on the Grammy show. There was one kind of I think an English band. I was like, who were those guys? I liked them, but there was only one rock. Well, there was, you know, just a lot of pop music and dance numbers, and it was actually cool in a way though too, because LA just gone through such a big travesty with all of the fires, and so I think the Grammy people were great to hire like every dance troupe in LA, you know, for the Grammy show, because they all got the work that they deserve to have after going through such a tragedy. But, you know, it was still, where's the rock bands, man, you know?
Now, when you were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you were inducted by Chris Cornell, and then they recorded Super Unknown in you and your sister's studio. Were you there for that? Yeah. Do you remember that time?
No, but we knew they were in there in our studio that we had put together. You know, we wanted to make sure that Seattle, the music town that we come from, had a world-class recording studio in town. And it was a fantastic studio. Elton John worked there, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, all kinds of Seattle bands were in there. Seattle Symphony played in there, recorded in there. You know, I think Eddie Money was there at one point.
Yeah, R.E.M., Alice in Chains, Nirvana.
R.E.M., Alice in Chains were in there. You know, Alice in Chains really trashed the place. We were kind of like, hey!
They did? They're so close with you. How could they do that to you?
They were kind of, they were very grunge rock musicians. They were grungy. They lived it up to the grunge. Yeah, but anyway.
How did you not end up on the SAP EP then? Because your sister's on it. Your cover of Brother with Mark Lanigan for the music of pop culture in Seattle is haunting. And I mean that in a positive way. It's so emotional. And you've got such a tie. You know, Mike was in your band forever. You've known Jerry and been on stage. How did you not end up on the SAP EP?
Oh, the SAP EP.
Your sister was on it. She sang on Brother, and then they recorded it in Seattle. It just seems like you'd be right around there.
Yeah. I must have been, you know, busy doing like a project. Whatever year that was, I might have been working on Almost Famous or something, if that was in the 90s. Yeah, I was probably working on Almost Famous.
Now, did you lose a house in L.A.? I know you moved, but did you still own something there?
Well, there was a house I used to own in Topanga Canyon that is still standing, and there was another house in the Palisades where I raised my kids when I was married to Cameron Crowe there, and that house is actually still standing too. But you know, those guys are telling me how it's really hard to know exactly what to do with it because the neighborhood is not there, and the construction will be there forever, and what do you do? Do you sell? Do you let the Army Corps of Engineers come in? You know, what's the next steps for a lot of those neighborhoods? A lot of my friends lost everything. So, yeah, it's a travesty, and it's a tough thing to recover from, bounce back from. But, you know, leave it to California to get it right.
Yeah, that Fire Aid concert was phenomenal.
That was pretty great. The Fire Aid concerts, yeah. I was real proud of California for doing such a great job. A lot of those performances really special and sounded great. They had a good sound engineer on that sound truck that night.
Yeah, it was so cool to see so many unique bands, a lot of California-based bands. And then you took part in that tribute to Taylor Hawkins. Tell me about how that call, I assume it came from Grohl. Again, you've known the Seattle guys forever, so I assume you and Grohl go back to the 90s or maybe late 80s. Was it a call from him? And then did you have a chance to practice with Pink?
Yeah, we practiced once.
Wow.
And she's just, she is a beast. She's the beast of rock singers. I mean, my sister is a beast of a rock singer, and so is Pink. She's right there in the same as Chris Cornell, as well. There aren't a lot of rock singers that can do what Pink does, and her on Barracuda just raised my hair, gotta say.
Yeah, that was a tribute to Taylor Hawkins. And then tell me about the song. I think I heard that he had written a jam with Duff McKagan from GNR, and then that song ends up on your first solo record. Do I have that right? And he's playing on it?
That's right. Right. I wrote a song to a jam because I was working with Taylor on something for his solo album. I sang some vocals on his solo album at his studio, and the album was really cool. It's called Get the Money. But I said, but when I left, do you have any jams lying around? He said, yeah, I got this thing with Duff McKagan, there's another Seattle buddy. And so I made it into a song called Party at the Angel Ballroom, which is kind of like a big, like if you see Jimi Hendrix up there, there's a great big party going on where all the rock stars go to party after they're gone, So it was kind of interesting how he played drums on the song about the big party up in the Angel Ballroom where all the rock stars go. If there is such a place, he's there now.
You would know so many people at that bar, and we could just talk about the 90s guys that we've already talked about. Chris, Cornell, Lane Staley, Kurt Cobain. Do you feel like those three specifically, since you knew those guys so well, do you think they were, in a way, tortured individuals? Or do you think it's more of what happened with the fame and that was too much?
Good question. I mean, it's yes to both. It's you can have all the talent and all of the mindfulness and energy to make great creative statement in the arts and in music and in the world, but sustaining the capability of knowing how to handle it is a whole other skill that a lot of people can't deal with. And Chris Cornell and Taylor was not one of those. He would have gone till 110, but he just had a physical problem. But, an ex-addict, though, so probably dealing with his own issues, trying to get through the gauntlet of being a famous person and just really loving what you do and having to deal with a lot of the roadblocks. And it's kind of a minefield in a lot of ways emotionally to become a rock star or a famous person. And so I think, that's a good question. And it's, a lot of people are not exactly equipped with the armor that it takes to kind of soldier through the fame of it all.
Well, last question, Nancy Wilson. Do you have any idea where that guitar is that you gave Eddie Van Halen? Do you think it's still hanging around somewhere?
I hope Wolfgang has it, Wolfie. I hope Wolfie has it because I'm sure he has all of his dad's guitars and he's out there, playing amazing music. His first album is a great album, and I know the new one is great too. And he's out playing, And when I did the tribute on my solo album, the You and Me album, that also has Party at the Angel Ballroom, I did a tribute to Eddie called For Edward, the number 4 Edward, which is an instrumental, kind of echoing an instrumental he played for me on the guitar that I gave him, the ovation that I gave him back in the 80s when we were opening for Van Halen. He said, you play great acoustic. And I said, what about your acoustic? I don't really have an acoustic. So I gave him an acoustic. And he stayed up all night, played me this thing in the morning on the phone over the hotel phone. That was so pretty. And so I tried to make him a tribute, another instrumental tribute. It's like, a minute and a half long with that guitar. So hopefully that guitar belongs to Wolfgang now.
Yeah, it's such a cool story. I kind of wish you would have recorded what he played for you, but I actually like the story better that that's just a private piece of music for you that exists forever, just between you and him.
That's before you could just record shit onto your cell phone, like we do nowadays, but or your laptop. But I don't know if it exists recorded into anything anywhere ever. So it sort of lives in my head.
That's awesome.
And I try to echo it back from out of my head into, the universe for a tribute for Ed.
It's Nancy Wilson from Heart, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today.
Great, Forrest, to talk to you.